Yo, yo, yo. We are off and running with the fantasy season. It's your boy Joe Frick. It's your boy Drew Hannis. Drew, there's a lot going on. It's week 2. But more importantly, we picked a really bad day to do the show because your girl, Taylor Swift, has 1.2 million of our fans watching her podcast right now. How's that make you feel?
Honestly, I'm more upset that I'm not watching it myself. I was watching it right before we hopped on here, started chatting. My girl Starlight, um, you know, I honestly real talk for a second. I think that her and Travis have like authentic love, and I like to celebrate like the authentic love thing. So I really vibe with their relationship. I get why people get mad seeing her on their screens during football games, but that's not a. I don't think that's a her thing or a Travis thing. It's just this media outlets just trying to take advantage of the situation. But I look at them and this seems authentic, and you know I vibe with that.
We love love in this show. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that we love. There's things that we don't. We got a lot of good stuff coming for you in the show today. But as always, Dr. Drew, hit us with the injury updates coming out of that first week of the preseason.
Yeah. So 2 new injuries, a couple other ones that we should touch on. I know something you mentioned you want me to bring up that we haven't talked about last week. Tyjae Spears, he suffered a high ankle sprain. This is the first time we've seen him with a high ankle sprain. Last year, he missed some time with a high ankle sprain. They're quoting him a few weeks. Based on the data the last few years, we're looking at 1 to 4 based on the most extreme. I think that he'll be ready for week 1. So nothing to be too concerned about. Also, a guy they're not really drafting early. So it's not something I would think that you need to worry about him moving back on your list or your ranking sheets. Just continue on the way you were with Tyjae Spears. If it's a guy that you're, looking for a committee back, if you go 0 RB, or if you're looking for a potential handcuff for Pollard, depending on how you view him. But I wouldn't change, how I view him personally based on his injury. Then Jaden Reed, he suffered a foot injury. There's not a lot out there yet. He's in a boot. Something to monitor week to week. I still feel like he'll probably be okay. The Packers, wide receiver room has kind of been decimated as of late with a lot of nagging injuries. Romeo Doubs also got nicked up. Savion Williams, am I blanking on his last name for some reason? The rookie. A few guys are, banged up in that room, though. It's basically just Matthew Golden. We got some new information about Brandon Ayuk. Kyle Shanahan came out today and basically said that they're expecting a return around week 5 or 6. They have a mini bye in week 5, so I think that makes a ton of sense for him to come back in week 6. He's a guy that, we've discussed offline quite a bit. Him and another guy we're going to talk about later on. But, he's kind of off my board. You know how I am the last few years. This is year 5 for us. I typically don't draft guys personally that are coming off ACL injuries. So, it depends how risk-averse you are. Someone like Brandon Ayuk is going to be on your roster. But, we're starting to think about him come week 6. So if he's someone that you're willing to wait for, obviously you can do so. He's going really late. And there's not a whole lot going on in that wide receiver room. Juwan Jennings is still, looking for some more money. He hasn't been practicing either. So, there's still potentially opportunity there. And you want to talk about Matthew Stafford, the back injury. I'll be honest, I'm still not concerned about it. He's an older guy. I don't think that he really needs to practice. I think he can come back week 1. And Sean McVay's been downplaying it a ton. For me, I'm not drafting Puka Nacua later. I know that some people have been discussing him falling a little bit in drafts early. For me, I'm still going to go with him as a first-round guy. Devontae Adams is actually going in around the top 25 picks in ADP on ESPN as well. I wouldn't fade him either. I think that, Stafford's going to be ready to go. Hopefully. They basically said today that if this was week 1, he'd be playing. The dude has played through a lot of injuries in his career. It's not to a point where I'm worried about it.
From what I've seen from other lab coat Twitter folks, they say that if it's a slip disc, that there's a high probability for re-injury. So I think that's the concern that a lot of people have. But not that I can say from experience, but drugs are pretty magical.
Yeah. I was concerned when they said he got an epidural, but I don't even know if that's even true. If you got an epidural, that's pretty crazy if you got an epidural to manage that pain. I mean, epidural kind of causes more back pain in the long term, in my opinion. So it didn't really make sense to me. I mean, obviously, we both have wives that had kids. My wife had an epidural.
Sarah did too. She was all about it.
Yeah, she's still complaining to this day that she still has potential back pain. Like I
Really?
don't think that's something. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think that's something they would do, but who knows?
Or you
But
know.
like I said, I'm not really worried about Matthew Stafford. They're downplaying it. They would say he'd play today if they had a game. So if Sean McVay's saying that, that's good enough for me at this point.
Cool.
And then last one is Malik Neighbors. I know that you were concerned about this. You said people are bringing it up at the expo that they're concerned about it. Honestly, I'm still not really concerned about it. I mean, it's something that he's been managing for so long, and I think that they just know how to play it. You know what I mean? Like they're going to go through the regimen and how to keep him, strong for the season. He could have had surgery, and they opted not to. I feel like for how long it's been going on, I feel like that they would know better if he needs to have surgery. It's something that could potentially happen based on what he's saying, but like I just think that it's load management. The dude's a star. When he's out there, he's balling out with Russ. Like, I just don't think that they feel the need to, put him out there every single day and risk potential injury that could be worse.
Yeah. So
I'm really not worried about that either.
Was that your last one?
Yeah, that was my last one.
Okay, so I'm going to throw you a surprise headline that we didn't talk about yet. So on that subject of Malik Neighbors, we saw Jackson Dart have a pretty solid showing as a rookie. Do you think that performance that he had puts a tighter lens or a smaller leash for Russell Wilson going into the season, or do you think that the Giants are going to try to hold off on Dart playing in this season? Like, is there a scenario that you would draft Dart this year?
Absolutely not. I mean, they don't even have their bye till like week 13, right?
Yeah.
I don't see him playing ahead of that. I think that if Russ were to struggle that poorly, I think that they would just play Jameis. I don't think they have any intention of playing him before the bye, week 13.
No. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think so either. It would be an interesting thing. Like, I don't see them having a scenario where they're like, oh, week 1, like, we're just going to start him. I do see a world. I think that Schoen and Dable are on the hot seat a little bit. So if they feel like it's to save their jobs, maybe they throw him in there. But he looked better than I thought he was going to look. I thought he was going to look a lot more like a rookie. He did have that one run where I was like, dude, I'm sure they took him over to the sideline. It's like, we never do that ever again in the preseason, because he could have got lit up pretty bad.
I mean, he's a raw player, but the dude has swagger, and I actually really vibe with that. Like the way he presents himself to the media after that game too in his interview. Like the dude has like a little bit of a, I don't know, like there's just something about him that I kind of vibe with. But yeah, I don't expect him this year. I can't believe we have 2 comments with Taylor Swift on YouTube right now. But.
Yeah, I know. Our number 1 fan, Chad, always in the chat. He says he has a blockbuster brewing in his dynasty league. Let's take a look. This is a little spicy. Would you trade Josh Allen for practice fighter Michael Penix, Kyron Williams, setting up a QB trio of Caleb, Bryce, Penix? Chad, no, absolutely not. There's no world that I'm trading somebody that has consistently been a top 2 quarterback for the last 5 years or so for Kyron Williams with his mediocre efficiency ratings and Michael Penix, who really didn't do much except just target Drake London for 2 games last year. Absolutely not. Caleb is kind of looking like a bust if he doesn't figure out the processing of the NFL. Bryce Young finally turning the corner, but I don't care what you have. There's no way that you're trading Josh Allen for that unless it's a 1 QB, which I don't think that this is based on the way that you're talking about the QB room. He's saying that his only running backs on the team are Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, but that doesn't make me feel any better about the bad decisions that you would be making to trade away Josh Allen. Isn't Chad like a generational hater? Oh, it is 1 QB. 1 QB, this changes a lot.
I still wouldn't trade Josh Allen for that return.
I don't think it's great. I don't think that it makes your team better. Like, I don't know if I would want Michael Penix out of any of those out of the three. He would probably be 3 for me. So you're basically trading Josh Allen for Kyron Williams. I don't see it. That's not enough for me.
I think sometimes Chad gets that itch that he just has to make a move, and it's
But
just
wasn't last year? Wasn't he all about not he was off the Allen bandwagon for a while?
yeah, he benched him for Bryce Young, and he scored
That's
50
right.
points against the Lions or some shit.
Yeah. So I would vote no on Prop 12. Fellow friend of the show, Tyler Hernley. Good to see you, man. Hope all is well. My co-commissioner in a dynasty league. Home league is a 10-team PPR superflex. I have the first overall pick, and I'm thinking of not going QB. Is that
He asked
insane?
the same question in our startup draft a few days ago. I didn't respond because I was working on my basement renovation.
I think in a 10-teamer, I can see it why you would be okay with it. I personally would probably take the QB because I'm risk averse and I like my ability to go and get stuff later. But I've seen some weird stuff in Superflex leagues where it's you can get someone like Malik Neighbors if there's a heavy enough quarterback run in the first. And it's I would take him in the first round of a startup, So
That's
it's for me, if I have the first overall pick in a redraft, I think it really comes down to 3 players for me. Lamar, Josh Allen, Chase, maybe Bijan if you want to get crazy with those 4. I'm taking Josh Allen just because of the consistency factor that we have. We just talked about it. He's been top 2 for how many years in a row? Lamar obviously blew everyone out of the water last year, but he hasn't done that consistently. You could see Jaden Daniels take the leap, but we've seen a lot of players maybe not do as good in the second year, just as many as we've seen go further their second year. So for me, let's not get creative. Give me Josh Allen, and then we'll figure out who comes back to us on the back half.
And Tyler should know his home league well enough to know if he's going to get screwed if he makes that type of decision. It depends on who you're drafting with. I'd probably take the quarterback though, for me.
Yeah. And I think in a 10-team league, 10-team leagues are fun because of the balance between league size, the size of the teams in the league, and then what are the benefits. I feel 12-team is very much about depth and how do you manage your flex players. 8-team leagues, it's very much all right, how do I get the best players and in as many positions as I can and kind of bully people, where the 10-team, it's kind of the sweet spot in the middle. So I would like having one of the elite quarterbacks because then that just gives you a positional advantage, especially in a super flex format.
Yeah.
Cool. So Chad is saying that he could also trade Kyron or get Kyron for Coker, ETN, and Eckler. Chad, that's the trade right there. You're getting a bag of chips for the RB1 for the Rams. What are you doing? What more is there to discuss?
Is he getting Kyron?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a smash. Yeah, he wants to trade Kyron. That's what I wouldn't do that.
Wait a minute. I'm very confused.
I feel like he's going to trade Josh Allen for Kyron, and then he's going to flip Kyron for even worse package. He's getting farther away.
Chad, I might have to mute you for 5, bro. What are we doing here? The season has started. These are drunk off-season hypotheticals.
That's what I mean. I think that he just has that itch to make a move, and it's just you could put any dumb trade in front of him right now, he might take it.
What do we do with this guy? We got Zach in the chat, bitching from Texas. Glass underneath, beating my block. Yeah. Love that. Love that guy. Big X the Plug is my homie, man. So many hits this year. I'm loving it. Tyler is maybe thinking a bit too hard. He's never done that ever in the history of fantasy football. The king of the tight end premium. Love that, dude. You'll make a good decision. I have all the faith in the world in you. But, Drew, let's get back on task. let's get on with the show. So the big headline for this week, James Cook finally got a new contract, 4 years, $48 million extension, $30 million guaranteed. This will make him the sixth highest paid running back annually in the NFL. And that's going to put him third in guaranteed money. We just saw Kyron get a new deal last week. James Cook comes in kind of flexing a little bit. And it was like, yo, what's good? Like, to me, this feels like a bit of an overpay. What are your thoughts on this deal?
Man, we've been talking about this for like 2 months heading into Fishbowl. I never wavered that this deal was going to get done. I mean, I don't know what it was, but James Cook just signing with the Bills just always made sense for both sides. I mean, he didn't want to go anywhere else. Their running game was terrible before he really came on. And they know based on previous seasons of faltering in the playoffs where they would just fall apart, just leaning on Josh Allen in the snow, and it just wasn't working for him. So this is one of those things where they just had to do it. They had to give him the money. And when Kyron came out, he got $10 million a year, and James Cook was, asking for 15. They were always just going to be in the middle around 12. Like, this was just like the writing was in the sand. That's why like I said, you were really high on Ray Davis going to the Fishbowl, which was a good move. I just felt like it wasn't going to play out that way. And
the Ray Davis thing for me wasn't so much of a. I thought the deal was going to get done as well, but if he sat out all of the preseason, then it was like, all right, he's not going to be able to just jump in right away. So that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, he was practicing and then taking days off and then practicing again. It was just kind of like
business decision.
Yeah, so I don't know. I never really felt bad about him going into the season. I mean, running backs get injured, so I mean, either way is a good pick for a handcuff. But like, he wasn't going to be that league winner type that we were like.
What's interesting though, and Tyler raises a good point here, like his snap share for being what I would say is the best offensive weapon sans Josh Allen in that offense, like his snap share really isn't that high. Part of that was they were blowing teams out and not playing him in the third and the fourth quarter. But at the same time, if you're going to pay him all that money, you got to think that they're going to get him on the field a little bit more. Zach has his shot, his thoughts. Ray Davis better. And in case you didn't know this, for all the new people on the show, only 20 running backs can be a top 20 running back. It's kind of big.
How many inches is his?
I don't know, man. They be using them. They've been testing out that new technology that you don't need the chains anymore, so it's harder to count. But yeah, I think you're like you said, it makes a lot of sense. I don't think that he's necessarily worth all of the money, but what other options did they have?
That's what it was,
Yeah, we'll see what they do with it. But that's the main headline for the week. I think of a lot of the big headlines were really injury related. So let's jump into Fantasy Football Tinder. So if you haven't been on the show before, we run a Fantasy Football Tinder for a couple of years now. So just to better explain what's going on, let's lead you with an example. So this is our boy Zach here. Zach has been putting in that grind this offseason, sweating with Smitty pretty much every day of the week. But I've noticed the arms are always out. The gun show is always in session. So the people have been asking, like, do you think that the sleeves on his shirt just fall off, like, out of fear that, like, bad things are going to happen? And so for all the people that are fans and believe in this, they're going to swipe right. You'll see the green hearts pop up on the screen for all of us that are tapped in, watching live. And then for people that are kind of haters, be like, no, he probably cuts it with scissors. Like, you're just going to hit it with the red X. So that's how this is going to work. We reached out to some folks on Twitter this past 24 hours just to get a feel for the questions that we have. So we'll announce the results from the fan vote, and then we'll dive into our analysis. So the first one we have here, Drew, we got Joe Mixon. So Joe Mixon had this lingering ankle issue through the offseason. People were expecting him to be ready for the start of camp. We haven't really heard a lot of word from him so far. Currently on ESPN, PPR, ADP 67, running back 21. Are you still fixing on Joe Mixon?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this offline quite a bit, some stuff you were hearing at the expo. And, I mean, what it comes down to for me is that dude is turned 29. All right. Research done. This is actually by the Fantasy Footballers. They put this out a couple years ago. the data is it's probably a little outdated, but I don't think that it would probably be skewed that much differently based on how things have gone the last few years. But only 8% of running backs produce top 10 finishes in their age 29 season. And 4.76 produced top 5 in their age 29. And like the dude's missed 3 games in 2024. He's missed at least 3 games in 5 of his 8 seasons in the NFL. So like he already struggles to stay healthy. And then you talked about it a bunch that, I mean, he's hurt now. They brought in Nick Chubb. I've been trying to like really dig into that injury to see what's going on. And the first report actually came out in May by Aaron Wilson, the guy that covers the Texans. He basically said that the team wasn't really afraid of the injury and the fact that he'll probably be back in the middle of camp. But things are getting worse and worse. And the most recent report is that it's a foot injury, not a ankle. So I really like looked into the different types of common injuries that a player can get in their foot. And we're looking at a fracture, 6 to 12. I don't think it's a fracture. I think if it was a fracture, we definitely know about that by now. Plantar fasciitis, a mild 1 to 3 weeks. If he suffered his injury in like April, it was first reported in May, he'd be back by now.
Right.
Even if it was the severe one. So I'm ruling that one right out right away. The other options of Liz Frank, obviously, if that was a Liz Frank, he'd probably be on IR and he'd be done. That's an 11-month injury. The dude's probably done for the year. But they wouldn't waste time to, put that out there. They just put him on IR, he'd be done. I think he has a Jones fracture. I just think it's the most likely. It's a fracture of your 5th metatarsal, basically on the outside of your pinky toe. And you're looking at about an 8 to 10 week recovery. So based on the fact that he hasn't been playing, it's been reported in May, I think he has a Jones fracture. I think we're looking at a mid to late October return at the latest. Obviously, this is all speculation, but just based on like the data, this was all put out by UPenn, by the way, a study for NFL injuries in the foot. I just think, I don't know. It's really weird that it was reported so early, and there hasn't been a lot out there, and the dude's not practicing yet. I feel like he should have been practicing by now if it wasn't that bad. I expect him, to. I think that he's probably going to need some time to ramp up, obviously, unless he gets on the field like next week. Chad thinks it's a plantar fasciitis tear. I mean, the extreme severe case for a plantar fasciitis is 6 to 8 weeks. Like, he should have been back on the field by now. That's the only reason why I'm like mildly concerned that it's not that. And I think it's something worse. But like I said, it's completely up the air. We don't know anything. For all we know,
what does that mean for you as far as like where he is right now with ADP? Do you think that he's worth the risk, or how? No.
6 rounds too early for me. And even if he comes back, I think that they're worried about his ability to stay healthy. Nick Chubb's going to get some work. Dameon Pierce has looked solid in camp from what most reports are. And Chad's saying if he had surgery on 3 to 6 months, but like, why wouldn't there be a report that he had a surgery yet? That's the reason why I'm like, that stuff would be out there if he had surgery. I don't see that any of this really making sense. And 3 to 6 months, I mean, he'd be back in August. Based on the timeline, I'm thinking he got hurt in like March or April. I mean, they don't need to say anything at any point, and it wasn't reported till early in May by Aaron Wilson. Like, I don't know, the timeline just doesn't really add up to me. But who knows? He hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything all off season. He'll need that ramp up period. They brought in Nick Chubb, so at the very least, there's going to be a committee. It's just not a guy. I'm not drafting a committee back in round 6. It's just too early
for sure. So interestingly enough, when we reached out to the people, Drew messed up the votes because he voted. But before Drew voted, it was actually a 50-50 tie splitting between yes and no for Mixon. If I think about this for me, I'm also going to be swiping left. I think the big thing for me is just the way that they're being so quiet about the injury. Usually, like, guys get nicked up and they're like, hey, like, Neighbors is going to take a couple days off for his toe. Don't worry about it. We know that Matt Stafford got an epidural. They're not worried about it. They're going to keep being cautious and like taking care of him. We've heard nothing whatsoever. So to me, that screams bad news. I hypothesize that Nick Chubb probably chose to sign with the Texans over, say, the Bears or another team because they knew that there may be this opportunity that he could be the lead back. I don't think that necessarily means it's going to be for the season. It's going to be for whatever. But if there's a significant amount of time that he could get in there, get first team reps, prove that he still has it, then he was going to take that opportunity. To Tyler's point, Woody Marks going to be a great third down back. I like Woody Marks a lot. It's going to give him more opportunities to get on the field because I don't think that Nick Chubb is necessarily going to be just kind of like the bell cow that he was in his prime. So you're going to see Mark spell him. I liked what he did in UFC. So it'll be interesting just to see the way that it works. But for me at that 6th round ADP, I'm not really buying it. If I'm looking at players that are going around him right now on ESPN, so Rashee Rice would be a smash for me. David Montgomery, I feel a lot better about. And now that we have the injury to Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, like sign me up for that all day over Joe Mixon. So for me, I just don't see him dropping as far as I don't think I could touch him before round 9.
I had round 10 for me.
And I just don't see him falling that far. I think people, like you said before the show, people will see the name and then want to continue on with that.
Yeah. Chad, I want you to send the report that you see because I've just been looking. I don't see anything out there at all, and I'm just trying to read the tea leaves. It's complete speculation on my part. I mean, plantar fasciitis is my second choice. I ruled out fracture and Liz Frank right away. It's between plantar fasciitis and Jones fracture for me. I don't know. I just feel like if he had a severe plantar fasciitis surgery, I think that would be reported. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been reported when he had the surgery. Like you don't think there's any Texans beat that are just in there know that he had surgeries on crutches? Like I don't know how you keep that a secret. That's why I think it's a Jones fracture.
Yeah, and I will say, as far as Ramondre Stevenson, they're saying that it's not a significant injury, but I mean,
I didn't even know he got hurt.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a minor thing, but the more that Henderson can prove that he's that dude, I mean, that just opens up that pathway for him to take more of those touches earlier on. So we'll see. All right, so transitioning to Tinder 2, we have another murky injury situation. So Chris Godwin last year, we had the broken ankle, kind of had the foot dangling by the sock, if you will, when it happened. Chris Godwin currently has an ADP of 102.9 on ESPN. Drew, with that ADP, is this a God-win-win scenario for people that are looking to snag who was a really elite option in fantasy football while he played last year at this kind of like discounted rate? And before you answer that question, the people said 56% of them said yes, they would draft Chris Godwin at that wide receiver 39 spot.
Yeah. We went back and forth on this last night when we were chatting, and I was like trying to like I couldn't really pick a side. I was like on the fence with it because like I'll preface I'm okay with the ADP. The fact that Ibuka's not working out of the slot, they paid him. I think that they feel good about him coming back. But ultimately, I swiped left. And the reason why I swiped left isn't just it isn't because of his ADP or the injury or anything like that. I swiped left because I just don't see myself owning him. There's just a lot of other guys in that range that I would prefer. The guy I'm going to talk about later for my OnlyFantasy being one of them. Like there's just guys that I'd rather have at that position. But like if he falls and I somehow can get all of them, then great. Like I'm not going to say I'm not going to draft him. I just don't see that there's a good chance that I'll have him on my roster. So I don't feel good about swiping right, telling people to draft a guy that I don't think I'm going to have myself.
Yeah, I think there's just like quite a few things. I'm with you. I'm also swiping left. And my whole thing is that, one, you have Emeka Egbuka, which Chad is saying wide receiver 1 season for him has arrived, right? Tyler agrees with that sentiment. That dude can play. There was quite a few teams in Dynasty that I have that I traded back into the first to go and get him. I feel really good about what he's willing to do. And even if he is not the slot guy for them, I think that versatility that they have, Mike Evans isn't going anywhere. They obviously saw that like he's getting older. Godwin's getting older. They're getting basically the JSN treatment of like having the succession plan there before you need it. But to your point, there's a lot of guys that I like in that range a lot more than Chris Godwin, especially if he's going to be missing time. So Jacoby Myers is somebody that I absolutely love this year. 129 targets last year. The very unsexy, like kind of flex wide receiver 2 play that you have. Stephon Diggs is looking miles ahead in Diggs, and they're pretty much neck and neck, 99.8 to 102.9. We're seeing Diggs in practice. Diggs would be the guy that I'm probably targeting in that range just because we're seeing it on the field already. It's like, why would I hope that Chris Godwin can, like, using the success that he had before his leg fell off? It doesn't make sense when we haven't even seen him on the football field yet. And they had to do a cleanup surgery already this year. So for me, I'm probably out on him. If I want to wait and get someone that's like a little bit more risky in that area, like maybe you take a dart throw at Jordan Addison, who's going to have the suppressed ADP because of the suspension, but he's a young dude that you know that can play, whereas you're hoping that Godwin can return to form. So that's kind of where I fall in that one.
Yeah, agreed. Like if I come into this decision where it's Godwin and Stephon Diggs, it's Stephon Diggs 10 out of 10 times. He looks completely unfazed by his ACL injury. I talked about last week. I just don't think that he has that mental hurdle that most guys have. He's just this dude that he's unfazed by it, and he looks great.
Yeah, he's been really impressive, and I mean he's been tearing people up at camp. There was a clip today. He had Jeff Okudah on skates, spin cycle. Like it was absolutely nasty.
Yeah.
So that's how we swiped. I think it'll be interesting to see. I feel like decisions like this are going to be pivotal for folks come draft time. But you heard it here first. We're out on Godwin. We're out on Mixon. Other players in that area. But, I mean, if things fall the way that you want them to fall, then obviously it becomes a point where it's like, all right, what's the worst that can happen if you have them as a dart throw? But we'll see what we got. So as we're transitioning into this next part, we are going to do a mock draft from the middle of the draft board of a 10-team league. So if you're enjoying what you're seeing so far, if you like swiping on Tinder with us every week, smash that like button, hit the subscribe. We can keep having fun with this, but we're going to jump into sleeper. We're going to do a mock draft from the 6th position here. If you're with us last week, we drafted from the 2 hole. So Drew, when you're getting started with the middle of the board, I know personally for me, I'm not really liking being in the middle of the board this year, but is there any difference in your strategy from what you were doing with the front half?
Yeah, I mean, I still like to stick with the hero RB strategy. That's what works for me. And when I pick in the middle of the board, I find myself chasing, and I've been chasing Christian McCaffrey way too often. We talked about this last night. Our only fantasy picks for this week are guys that we're reaching on and we're ahead of consensus. I didn't pick CMC particular for that exercise because he's a first round pick. I didn't want to pick a guy going that early, right. But I'm in that boat with him every single time I pick from this spot. Like Christian McCaffrey is the guy on the Niners. None of that has changed.
Sure.
I personally think that he's coming into the season healthy. I think he looks good. I think it's a clean slate. And I'm in the eyes of, if I had the 101 last year, I was picking CMC, but his ADP is suppressed, and I feel good about him anywhere in the top 5. The only guys I've been picking over him, which might be crazy to most, but I stick to my plan, and it's been Bijan, and I've had the discussion for myself whether I pick him over Gibbs. I've done it in several mock drafts just to see how it flowed. Considering I think that, like I said, he is the guy. I think Gibbs still has to compete with David Montgomery, obviously, and they have a lot of weapons on the outside that they're throwing the ball to. I just love CMC's opportunity. I'm not going to bank on a guy getting hurt. Last year, I didn't pick him 1-1. I was very adamant about this because I just have this weird vibe with the players that are consensus 1-1s. Like I will not touch Jamar Chase this year, period. Doesn't matter where I pick. He's not going to be on my team. The last 5 years, the consensus wide receiver 1, the guy that was wide receiver 1 the year before, I think like half the time they weren't even top 20 plays.
Right.
CeeDee Lamb had a significant drop-off last year due to his injuries after he was wide receiver 1. There's just bad.
And Dak as well. Not having Dak kind of was brutal for him last year too.
Yeah, there's just always bad vibes with with the consensus 1-1 guy, and I've looked at the data and just watched it happen year after year that I choose not to make that decision and just go with the 1-1. So I mean, I've been looking at CMC here. I love CeeDee Lamb in this spot.
Yeah.
I love Puka Nacua in this spot if CeeDee Lamb were to go. I'm really not as high on Justin Jefferson as everyone else because I have to see a little bit from McCarthy before I really feel comfortable with him. I would take CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson. I would potentially take Puka over Justin Jefferson.
Interesting.
But CMC has been my guy in this spot.
Yeah, I think for me, if I think about my top 5 picks, so I have CMC as my 106. Interestingly enough, the player that I have before him that is still available is CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So my top 5, Chase, Robinson, Gibbs, Barkley, CD, then CMC. Just because I think there's a lot of insulation there with those picks. I'm not worried about Jamar Chase at all at 101, but I think everybody else like behind that, they inherit a little bit more risk. I do have Justin Jefferson as my 107 here, so it's like I don't expect to see the slide there. So for me, it's like if you want to go CMC here, we can. I would be taking CD in this situation, but if you want to rock that hero RB, then
no, let's go with CD because like I said, I'm neck and neck on both of those guys. I'm just really hoping that a guy like Derrick Henry, Ashton Genty fall, which majority of the time is not going to happen. So that's where it's like, in this case, neither of them fell, and CMC went right before.
Yeah. I will say, like in this situation, like being in the middle of the board, I like to remain as flexible as I can as I'm going through the draft. I really like Devon Achane right here, even though there's a lot of like weird energy coming out of Miami right now. I do think that he's going to be a pretty good focal point in the offense. If you look last year when Tua was on the field, he was the points per game RB1 until Tua pretty much disappeared. So unless you feel strongly about Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, if you wanted to pull the trigger on a tight end early, to me, I would be running to the podium here for Achane. I could see you wanting to double dip on the receivers and maybe hit Drake London or AJ Brown. I think it's too early right now to go QB, but I feel like Achane here makes a lot of sense. It would have been gnarly if we could have had the McCaffrey coming back here. I think in a real draft, not in a mock, there's no way he's going to make it that far. But it would be cool to see. I think this is a pretty ideal start for me right here, having those two guys. I really enjoy the back half, so I'm looking forward to when we jump into that. But, Drew, what are your thoughts on pick 2?
Yeah, so this board literally falls the exact way I don't want it to fall for me. Like, in this spot, I'd probably take Brock Bowers. I've been drafting an elite tight end early in most cases from the middle, even though I don't necessarily want to do that.
Yeah. So you're feeling Brock Bowers over Trey McBride then? Because Trey McBride would be my tight end 1.
Yeah. The only reason why I'm saying that and not McBride, I'm saying Bowers, is because I find myself having more opportunity to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. from the middle. And I do expect a big leap from him this year. I'm on the Marvin Harrison Jr. train. So that's why I've been going Bowers. It's more of like I have this personal philosophy where I don't like to draft too many guys from the same team unless they're like very – like it's an offense that's very potent. Like they're really moving the ball. And I don't see the Cardinals being that type of team. So I wouldn't want to have both of those guys, and I'd rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. later. So I'd go with Bowers. But I'm not really in on Achane. I'm not an Achane guy. I like Bucky Irving.
Which is funny because you absolutely railroaded me 2 years ago for Achane.
You offered the trade for George Kittle, and I don't think it was that bad until Achane blew up.
Well, it was that bad because Christian Watson didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. He got hurt, though. Can't predict it.
No, for sure.
I traded Achane, though, like right after that.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with his size as a guy that I'm expecting him to be a every down back for me. But
Okay,
right
so
here, we have to take I really would want to take Josh Allen, but I also don't want to miss out on Kyron Williams or Chase Brown here.
no, yeah, I would take one of those two for sure. I
Yeah.
think for me, I would probably lean Chase Brown. I'm not worried about the competition that he has there. The Rams, I mean, with the Stafford news, that would significantly impact Kyron Williams if Jimmy Garoppolo ends up having to play football this year. So for me, it's like the risk mitigation of that. They've already lost Zach Moss. So really the only competition that he has is Taj Brooks, which they're not really going to just jump into that right now. So for me, I do like having Chase Brown there. I think that would be an argument as well as why you could double up on the wide receivers in the early rounds, because this like 3 and 4 spot is pretty solid for the running back room. So are you also on board with Chase over Kyron?
I mean, I'm higher on Kyron than you are, but I'm fine with Chase Brown because I think that's good for this roster construction, that offense. They're terrible defense.
I think if you didn't take Bowers there and you went with someone else, I think I could get behind taking one of the QBs in the 3rd round. That's just not really my vibe, though. So we'll see.
So I want to hear what your thoughts are here.
So my pick here would be Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is like my dog this year, right? I could see with one eye an argument for Amari and Hampton the more time that Najee doesn't play because of the Chargers running room. I have no concerns about this whole, even if Najee doesn't play, they're going to split the backfield. Like, I have no worries about that, but I feel that confident about Kamara over James Cook, over Hampton. So that would be my pick there. And then I'm probably going to be hammering wide receivers and like from 5 till whenever.
Interesting. See, I was on Amari and Hampton, and I thought you were going to say that based on the discussion we had last night about how you.
And to me, it's like I just want to know what's going on with Najee before I do that. Like Alvin Kamara, I feel really good about. I am increasingly growing like the way that I'm going towards Hampton. Like I'm finding myself reaching for him more, because if you don't have Najee in the equation, he very easily slides up into the 3rd round. In a dream scenario, we would get Hampton and Kamara, but I don't see it happening. But I feel like this 4th round, there is a lot of great value in running backs. Like I will most likely be taking a running back in the 4th round for sure.
Yeah. So my take on Najee, the dude just posted a picture like a day or two ago, and his eye is completely swollen shut. Like he can't even open it.
Yeah.
I don't see how he plays week 1. I also think that Omari and Hampton is crazy talented, and the more opportunity he gets to show that team who he is, the higher that his snap percentage goes up. Personally, I do think that Najee has a role, obviously. Obviously, based on what they said recently about how they're going to be a committee backfield no matter what, even if Najee don't play.
Right, but like, is Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal gonna get 50% of the timeshare? No.
He's too good.
No, he's too good. So then let's roll with Hampton then. Tyler was saying that he hopes that people panic about the Stafford injury and get Puka to come back in the 2nd. With Superflex, I could see that happening.
Kamara did not fall. There's a ton of people that are souring on Puka, but I'm just not going to be one of them. There's no chance.
Okay, so I feel like there's 2 players here that I would consider, and they're right there on the ADP.
I would take Adams.
And Walker. I think Walker is going to be a nasty player this year. Just with that new scheme, like he fits into it well. He was really hitting the hole good in that preseason game. But you're right. I don't have any worries about Stafford. We already have the 2 starting running backs in a PPR format. Yeah, I'm going to hit Adams there. So I'm with you on that. I don't think there's much more to talk about.
There's a guy I'm hoping falls here, and he did not.
Who was it?
I'm in on Mahomes this year.
See, I'm not. I feel like the Chiefs kind of have their formula. He does have better passing options than he has in the past, but I don't know if they need him to be the gunslinger that he was.
I just think he's better with Rashee Rice. I think that changes so much for him.
All right, so we can see Mixon here on sleeper. He's at ADP of 57.6. I don't really feel anything there. We're getting into rookie zone. So you got Harvey, you got Tedroy McMillan, Travion Henderson. Drew, do you feel passionate about any of these rookies here? Is there someone else that we're not viewing on the board that you would be more interested in?
We're not going to pick him because of the way our roster is, but this is part of the reason why I'm going
George Pickenland?
This is why I've been going CMC, because I've been finding George Pickens falling right into my lap in the majority of mock drafts I do in this spot, and I like him a lot, honestly, in this spot. I love stacking Dak with one of those two.
Sure.
Like almost every mock I do, I'm doing that in one shape or fashion. Like it's just Lamb and Pickens, or Lamb and Dak, or Pickens and Dak, and it like he's going in round 11, 12. It's just It feels so good making that pick.
Right.
But I think we got to go receiver again here.
See, well, what's interesting about that, though, is that there are still, like, you're getting to the point where the running backs kind of dry up after the sixth round.
I'm okay with Henderson, too, if that's where you're going.
Right? So it's like, do I feel good about Williams, Pickens, Tet? Yes. Like, Travis Hunter, sure, I could get behind it. But if I look what's going to be available on the way back as far as, like, running backs, Tony Pollard, Caleb Johnson, like, But I do feel like I could play Diggs as like a flex. I could play Jacoby Myers in like kind of that flex role if Rome takes a step forward. So I'm probably the first 6 rounds, I want 3 running backs. That's kind of where I'm feeling. That's why I don't like going tight end early, because then I can lock that in and just kind of play the board. But since we did, I'm probably going to go, and you would take Travion over RJ Harvey. I would. Yeah.
I think that Dobbins is going to have a significant role. I do. And to your point about Bowers, I've been doing a lot of mocks where I go with Bowers or McBride early, depending on where I'm drafting from. But I actually really like Mark Andrews in a bounce back in this spot too. I think that he's falling more than he should, especially with likely missing time now. His ADP hasn't really changed, even though likely he's not going to be playing.
Right. No, for sure. Okay, so we're at the 7th round here. Tyler just mentioned that he actually traded for Ferguson with Dak coming back. Ferguson was looking like a top 12 tight end 2 years ago. He struggled with injury. You had the Dak injury. I do see a way where the lack of running game allows all 3 of those kind of pass catchers to eat. So I do like that move. And I will let the record show that that is not me that Tyler's talking about. So some better looking Joe.
That move too. I think that Jake Ferguson's going to need to get some good touchdown equity, though. I think that that's going to be necessary for him to be like a top 10 guy. But I think that he's going to be good weekly starter, like fringe starter.
Sure. Okay, so now we got some interesting decisions here. You have Travis Hunter, who had 4 targets in the first quarter of the game against the Steelers last week, only pulled in 2 for 7. You have Jalen Waddle and Chris Olave, who were kind of like dynasty darlings a couple years ago. They've struggled with injuries. They've had these different things that have happened to them, so they've kind of have this suppressed ADP. I know we've talked that we both feel pretty good about Olave. I'm not out on Waddle just yet, especially if this Tyreek Hill situation kind of continues to be weird. But looking at like the running back situation, Mixon, Jones, Swift, I don't feel great about any of those guys. Also big on Calvin Ridley this year. I think that Cam Ward's looking legit. He's getting through his reads really quick, like in game scenarios and these kind of like joint practices and stuff. So to me, I feel like wide receiver makes a lot of sense here. I don't believe that there's anybody quarterback wise in this range that I would really be looking for. But Drew, what are you leaning here right now?
I don't want to tell you who I want to pick because it'll spoil the show later on, but I do want to say like, this is the point where I'm just like, I'm waiting around for Dak now. I'm not going to take a quarterback in this range until Dak comes around. Like there's just go to the list to see if I'm missing someone, but I think that like, I'm just completely at Dak at this point. There's
one player that I would be reaching for soon, and we'll talk about why a little bit later. I wouldn't take him in the 7th, but on the way back, I would.
Would you take him over Dak?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we're split there. I would take Dak for sure.
And that's fine. I just don't really care about stacking. I think that it's overrated strategy unless you're playing best ball.
Oh, I'm not really a stacker. I just like that specific one. I typically don't do stacks at all.
Yeah.
But I just love Dak with either of those guys.
Yeah. So Travis Hunter, Jalen Waddle.
I would take Travis Hunter.
Done. This team is so young. Hampton, Henderson, Hunter. Fun stuff. Okay. And it looks like Calvin Ridley's going to be there. You got Caleb Johnson there. Could be a fun piece. Jacoby Myers, my dog. Chris Godwin is a no for me, as we mentioned. And then, yeah. So any particular way that you're feeling here?
I would tell you unless I get sniped, this pick for me and every single one is Roma Dunze. Like I
just don't know if I have confidence in Caleb Williams. It's a big concern. To me, I'm probably taking Ridley. I'll give you the Rome. I thought you were going to say Caleb Johnson.
I think that Jalen Warren's going to be too involved. I pick Caleb a lot because I think that he has extreme upside potential.
Yep.
But I think that if you want a solid starter that you feel good about, I think Rome's going to take a huge leap.
Yeah. And then
he was my wide receiver 1 last year, and I'm not gonna go off of that. His play style is just typically what I look for in a receiver.
Yeah. And we just talked about it, so here's where I'm like more than comfortable taking Diggs here. I probably would even consider taking Diggs at the 8 spot just to make sure that I got him.
Yeah,
I do feel a little bit like the number of wide receivers that we have is a bit egregious, but whatever. It is what it is. And yeah, we'll just keep on rolling. So you're starting to see some of the wide receivers go. We're down to like the Jalen Warrens in the running back room.
Warren is who I would have liked to have fallen there.
Yeah, that would have been nice to have as like a wide receiver 4. To me right now, I would definitely be taking Justin Fields over Goff, Murray, Dak, like all of those guys. I also think that sleeper, the ADP for quarterbacks is a bit lower than it is on ESPN, which is the majority of where people play.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean, like, and why I want to go so running back heavy early. And I think that speaks to your point here about taking CMC, where it's like you look at these players, Travis Hunter, Rome Odunze, Stephon Diggs, Devonta Adams, and then even still, like, if you're big on Emeka Egbuka, if you think Matthew Golden could be like a number 1 guy, like there's a lot of like players that could blow up in this 6 to 10 range at wide receiver where I don't get that same level of excitement from Tyrone Tracy or Travis Etienne. Like it feels pretty gross. Like I guess you could take Javonte because he's holding everyone off right now, but like, do I feel great about it? No. I'd probably rather have Charbonnet at this point, just in the
That's why I've been reaching on CMC.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on this?
I would pick Dobbins if you're really after.
Did I miss? Oh yeah. Okay.
Did you notice the ADP of Quinshon Judkins is absolutely nosediving?
Well, he still isn't
as
signed.
It should be. Like I'm surprised he went already.
Yeah.
Sleeper's not caught up in that.
Sleeper doesn't. That's one of the problems with mock drafts. If you look at like, I'd be curious what his ADP right now is in, say, like drafters or an underdog. Let's see what we got here.
I'm trying to load it up on ESPN, but my freaking internet.
ESPN is usually a bit slow on that either. That's why sometimes like the best ball stuff, they're a little bit quicker to jump the gun there on that sort of thing.
ESPN's ADP calculates in real time. I checked it last night after I asked you what.
But I don't. But the problem is there's not a lot of people that have drafted yet. That's the only thing, right?
Oh no, it's all off mock drafts. Their mock draft lobby just calculates over and over again.
Yeah, but how many people leave mock drafts early? Like it's just tough. So let's see. Where's he at? So Judkins. I'm not even seeing him. It's Judkins, right?
Judkins.
Yeah, I'm not even like he's not getting drafted at all.
Yeah,
like his.
Like He went in round 16 or something for me in a mock
His
draft last
ADP
night.
right now is 149.
Yeah.
So he's RB 47.
The man's killing me. For those out there, Judkins was my guy this year in the draft.
That's tough.
I traded 2 future firsts in separate leagues to move up and get this guy. And then he decided to go to Burger King and allegedly act a fool.
So Tyler thinks that Blue's going to take the spot. Would you even entertain the idea of taking Javonte, or do you want like an elite handcuff in Zach Charbonnet? Or do you want to go and get Dak now?
Honestly, I'd be taking Kyle Pitts if I didn't take the quarterback or the tight end early.
I'm just going to take Dak. If you feel that passionate about it, like we're like in the bench.
And he's our starter.
Right. And then you still get Charbonnet. Not much to talk about there. I do still really like Michael Pittman. But are there any defenses that you're feeling like passionate about?
I'm with you, honestly. Like, I mean, I like the Steelers' defense, honestly. Like, they always play in low-scoring games because of their style, and like, I think that they're gonna get a lot of turnovers this year. Obviously, sack production, but I'm usually with you, and I like to stream based on the bad offenses.
Yeah, if I look at like good matchups for Week 1, Vikings versus the Bears feels really juicy on Sunday Night Football. You have, say, 49ers versus the Seahawks and just raining havoc on Sam Darnold. The Cardinals probably won't be heavily drafted, but they have the Saints, and they look terrible. So, like, that could be a good one. Commanders versus the Giants, that's probably where I would lean, just because I think that defense is pretty solid. So I think any one of those would be good. 2 picks left. Would you rather go defense first or kicker?
Couldn't care less.
All right, well, let's just wrap it then. So then I'll take who did we have here? Minnesota versus the Bears. I think that the Bears, Giants. No, actually, I'm going to go Washington, and then we'll see what comes back on the kicker front. Should be my boy, Tyler Loop. He's going to be a beast. New Justin Tucker. Best offense at moving the ball down the field. And he's going as kicker 11. Makes no sense to me right now. But, yeah, so there's the squad. I feel a lot better about this draft than we did in the first half. I think primarily because we drafted both tight end and quarterback early. I think you got to pick one or the other. Personally, I probably would have rather have waited for McBride on the 3rd than Brock Bowers at the 2nd, but I also don't see that happening in a real draft. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with that pick. But, yeah, I think this is a lot more solid of a team. And what's weird is that Justin Fields didn't even get drafted in this draft, so that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think he's being drafted as a starter right now. I think he's being drafted as a QB2 in most.
Which great. I'll talk about him in a minute, but
I'd love a Dak and Justin Fields roster, honestly. Like
kind of like a yin and yang kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So Tyler said you have a lot of belief in Von Miller, huh? That's funny.
We have another question right above him too. I don't want to.
Yeah, I'll hit that. This one was just relevant to the draft board. That's all. Okay, so we got Nino back in the chat. Good to see you, my friend. For a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, we'll be all right. Going Bijan at the 101. Better off going with Jamar Chase in this format. I feel like the 3 wide receiver thing is becoming more common. For what we've seen, if you are concerned about your ability to get running backs early, as we just mentioned, there is a lot of opportunity for depth at the wide receiver position in the middle rounds. So adding a 3rd wide receiver would not – if I felt passionately about taking Bijan, I think that he's worthy of a number 1 pick selection. I don't think that having a 3rd wide receiver should force you into taking Chase if that's who you want to take. I would take Chase 101, but – I also can see the argument for why it would be Bijan. He's my number 2, so it's not like it's that far off. But I wouldn't the format of your league wouldn't flip me from off of Bijan if that was kind of like the tiebreaker for me. Drew, any dissenting thoughts?
I agree with everything you're saying except for the fact that Bijan's my one. So like I would take Bijan with the 1-1.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it just really depends. I mean, if you want that hero running back strategy, the reason why I like the back half of drafts is if you just look at the difference between, say, like Chase and Lad McConkey, who should not be going at the 210, versus like Neighbors Nakua, Genty Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, Brian Thomas, Justin Jefferson, McCaffrey, Lamb Bowers, like these 5 teams have a substantial edge over the teams at the front.
My ideal position is late, and it's eyeing a Nakua Neighbors with a CMC package. That is like everything I want. I have a league where I'm the 3. We pick our order early, and I've been trying to trade back because there's a lot of teams at the end that are Eagle fans. I would just love to go up and get Saquon.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to flip that spot because I want to pick at the end. But Bijan would be my guy. I want to get a stud running back early, and for me, it's CMC and Bijan. And Gibbs too, but I actually think I have CMC ahead. Just kind of think of his opportunity, but obviously there's risk there with his potential injuries, but like we don't play scared in this format.
No, sure don't. But yeah, so for Nino, he said that Bijan was his 101 as well. So completely agree to ride with that. Stick with your gut. If Bijan has a career year and you didn't take him because you were worried about having to draft an extra receiver, you'd really hate yourself for it. So stick with your guy. Ball, keep doing what you're doing. But good to have you on the show. So Drew, OnlyFantasy last week we talked about like who we thought might drive up the draft boards based on their week 1 performances. Christian Kirk didn't really see the field a lot, so his draft stock didn't move.
Yeah, I fumbled that. I wasn't thinking week 1, but you said it. I just didn't know how to read.
Yeah. Jadon Blue caught the frick nasty stank and got hurt, as is tradition with the majority of my OnlyFantasy players. So maybe I shouldn't even be doing this right now. But the idea for this week is, who is the player that you are subscribing to that you would reach most on in your drafts this year? So, Drew, I'll kick it off with you. Who is that guy for you this year?
So I alluded to it earlier that it's really been Christian McCaffrey, but I didn't want to pick a guy that's going in round 1 or round 2.
You're reaching with him with the 0-4 pick.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So for me, it's been Chris Olave. I tweeted it earlier. I think it was like a month ago. Someone asked who's the most underrated player in fantasy football right now, and I, without hesitation, said it was Chris Olave, and I'm sticking firm to that. I understand why people are concerned about Chris Olave because the Saints are going to freaking suck. Like, they're going to be freaking horrible. They should be the first team on the clock come draft time, but they're not going to play that way. They're going to try their best to win. They don't understand that they need to rebuild. So, it is what it is. But they're going to be in a lot of either shootouts because they can't stop anybody or just playing from behind and throwing the ball a ton. And Chris Olave, he's being victim to recency bias because he's been hurt with the concussions. I'm not going to sit here and project a guy to suffer a concussion, take a bad hit. Like, I'm not going to project a guy to get hurt. I'm looking at some guys like Chase who's going 1-1, and I feel terrible about people picking this guy 1-1. Like, I usually fade that guy that's like consensus 1-1, but like I don't really plan for injuries. I'm not going to plan for an injury with Chris Olave. And some of the things that I noticed about my research with Chris Olave compared to other receivers, you brought it up last night and made me really look into it, is Garrett Wilson, basically the same talented player.
I completely agree.
They're the same player. They both had QB question marks. It's just that one's been hurt a ton, and they're going – Garrett Wilson's ADP is 44. Chris Olave is at 104.
And Chris Olave last year going into the season was in that like 40-50 range last year because of that talent.
Yeah. And look at some of these other things. And I'm not necessarily saying, okay, don't draft these guys in their position, but like what I'm trying to say is like the gaps between these players just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so we already mentioned Garrett Wilson. Xavier Worthy is going 57. I think that he has a ton of upside. I think he's going to be potentially boom bust.
Right.
But I like Rashee Rice more. So Xavier Worthy's going too high for me at his ADP. Devontae Smith, okay, he's going 30 picks ahead of Chris Olave. He's the number 2 option on the 32nd ranked pass offense last year.
Yeah, and I think the argument is that they can't possibly run as much as they did last year. So they're banking on positive regression for that, but will it happen?
I think they absolutely can. I think that they absolutely can run that much because they have Saquon Barkley and they have a quarterback that runs well. Like, even if it gets better, they were significantly lower. They were only throwing 24 times a game last year.
Yeah.
We were talking about that 2 years ago with the Bears, and we were complaining about 27 times a game. Like, they got to throw it 3 more times. I just don't see it. And then Jameson Williams is going 21 picks ahead of Chris Olave. I actually don't have too big of a problem where Jameson Williams is going. I just think that they're similar players. It's just that Chris Olave is going to be the number 1 on the offense that's going to be playing from behind. And Jameson Williams is fighting like crazy for targets with arguably one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL and a very good receiving tight end.
Plus, who's healthy this year.
Yeah, plus how often they run the ball. And then this one is the biggest one for me. Jerry Jeudy is going 20 picks ahead of him. Jerry Jeudy is being drafted based on what he did with Jameis Winston last year. Without Jameis Winston, he averaged 4 receptions a game for 44 yards, and he had 1 touchdown without Jameis.
That was like Denver Jerry Jeudy. James, like, he unlocked something like the most bodacious of booty Judys.
Yes. I hope you clipped that. That was hilarious. Bodacious booty Judys. That was good. But yeah, he's going 20 picks ahead of a guy who is the number 1, and Jerry Jeudy. Okay, he's going to be the number 1, but like, I'm projecting that if he doesn't get Flacco, I think he's going to be an absolute bust this year.
Yeah, and I do think that based on Flacco being in street clothes on Friday, he will at least get the start. Yeah. So
I just don't think it's going to last all year. So he's not going to be on any rosters of mine. And if you want to pick him, that's fine. I mean, it's the 8th round. It's not like crazy. You're not going to lose out. You're not going to lose your league if you draft Jerry Jeudy. It's just that, like, I think Chris Olave is going too late. And I think that it's the recency bias with his injuries, and obviously they're going to suck, but like, they're going to throw the ball. And I think Chris Olave is going to get a lot of targets as long as he stays on the field. Hopefully he stays on the field. No one wants to see him get injured, especially the type of injuries that he's been going through. But I don't think that he should be going in the 10th round. I personally don't. I picked him as high. I'm not picking him this high because I know based on the ADP that I could just wait for him. But like, I would pick him up in round 7 and round 8 based on how I feel about him. If he's healthy.
For sure. So a couple people in the chat vibing with the picks, especially with the Saints love. So Nino saying AK could be another guy for him. Love grabbing him in the late 3rd, early 4th, and full PPR. I'd reach a bit if I have to. I love that idea. I'm really torn between who do I go after between Amari and Hampton and Alvin Kamara, because I don't think that I'll be able to get both. But I think that Alvin Kamara is just like stupid consistent on being a top 12 RB. He's going to get a lot of looks. We talked about it, I think it was yesterday, Drew, where it's like Kellen Moore, his teams are going to be north of 60 plays a year, even if he's never rushed for 1,000 yards in a season, which is crazy to think about. He's going to get all of those dump offs with the quarterback situation that they have. So big fan there.
Never rushed for 1,000?
No.
That could be a trivia question because I never would have thought that.
I only saw it because there was a tweet today that said Najee Harris has never not rushed for 1,000 and Alvin Kamara never has. And I was like, wow. Like, that's pretty nuts. We got some hate from Tyler. I never traded JMO. I ended up trading JMO for Egbuka this year, actually, though. So that was fun. But yeah, Tyler's been trying to get JMO for a long time. And he also mentioned that he thinks Breece Hall being overlooked because of last year as well. So I know that me and you differ on that. You're not really big on the Breece fan. You think he looks slow. I am curious to see what he can do, but it's a tough one.
I have so much Braylon Allen now. I've picked Braylon Allen my last pick in like every single draft I've done. Like I believe in him taking work from Breece Hall this year. But if he does get the passing game utilization that people are projecting, I think that he'll still be okay. It
could be like an ugly like success. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, I hinted to it when we were talking through the draft. My guy that I'm reaching for right now is Justin Fields. At the Fantasy Football Expo on Saturday, in draft night out. I took him in the 8th round above Patrick Mahomes. Believe it or not, he fell all the way to the 8th, and I was like, all right, well, Fields is my guy. I'm not going to risk not getting him, so let me go. I didn't feel really great about any of the other picks there, but Justin Fields, a couple things about him. So weeks 1 through 6, when he started games last year, he was the QB6. 2023, weeks 1 through 5, he was QB3. Weeks 11 through 18, after coming back from injury, he was QB13. 2022, he was QB6. So when he's on the field, he produces. He's not a great real-life quarterback, in my opinion, which is a shame because I really thought that he was going to be whenever he came into the league. I will say that I don't think that any team is necessarily sold out to his strengths like we've seen with Lamar Jackson. So maybe if he got into a system where they were willing to commit to his play style, you could see it happen. But the Jets have only have him signed to a 2-year deal. From a dynasty perspective, if you have him this year, Tyler, cover your ears. I would be trading him the first time that he has a good game because he's probably not going to be the starter for maybe next year or the year after that. So you want to get him to a contender where you can get some good value for him. But from a redraft perspective, I love Fields this year. He offers that rushing upside, and he has a good reunion with Garrett Wilson. He has the pass catchers that he could dump off to and get that kind of yak sort of play. So I really think that he's going to do good, and he's somebody that I'm reaching for consistently. So that's my guy there. All right, Drew, let's bring it home. Let's let the people know where they can find us. So as always, if you enjoyed the show, the easiest way to find us is going to be on YouTube. So Around the 412. We also have a Twitch channel with the same name. And this channel and show specifically, we have the X account, AT412FF show. You can follow us on personals at JoeyFRK, at Drew Hannes. Nice and easy for you. But Drew, as we're going into preseason week 2, anything that you're looking forward to, anybody that you want to keep an eye on that you think could kind of like bump their stock as we move forward? Your boy Torrey Holton, I know we talked about him last week. Everybody's been talking about him. He looked good too.
Yeah, he's so sick, and I'm looking forward to seeing him some more. I just want to continue to keep watching Caleb Johnson. Honestly, like it's a homer pick, but like I was so high on him coming into the draft, and I mean, you remember, right? You were on the NFL draft show this year, right?
I was on the show for the pick. I was at a work conference, so I slid into the chat right for the pick, and then I got back on the conference.
Yeah. I mean, we opened up night 2 right away, and Zach was just like, "Who's your guy? Who's going to be there at 83?" And I was like, I was firm on Caleb Johnson. That was just always my pick. I wanted him to be a Steeler. And obviously we were lucky enough to see him fall that far because he should have went much higher in my opinion. But I want to keep seeing him. I mean, last week the dude was just like, he had to have like -2 yards of first contact last week.
He had very much rookie jitters, I think, too.
Yeah, I'd really like to see him get some more, some better blocking up front to see if we can see a little bit out of him. I want to see what he's got,
Cool. All right, y'all. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So with that is another week in the books for the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. We thank you so much for taking your time to join us. We will be back next week, 8:30 Wednesday, to kind of get into really the last mock draft of the year. We're going to be looking at that back half of the draft where me and Drew are both feeling maybe the most advantageous position for drafts. So come in, check us out. We'll have some fun. And until next time, my friends, this is it for us with the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. Thank you.